Stefan, how would you describe the political mood in the country now, sort of 1 week out from the first round and a week to go before the second?
Well, just over a week ago, when the results came in from the first round, a lot of the French people were relieved, and the European leaders as well, that Emmanuel Macron came in first. But now, almost a week into the new campaign, there's more uncertainty. People are starting to get a little bit nervous about the possibility that Marine Le Pen might win. It's still not very likely, considering the polls of today. Emmanuel Macron is still leading with about 60%. But the camp of Macron, his faithful, his loyal team, they are becoming a little bit concerned because he is much less present in the media this week than has been Marine Le Pen. So I would say it's a hard and tense campaign.
What is the challenge for Macron here?
Well, the challenge here, of course, is to convince the French that he is the answer to the problems this country has been struggling with for many, many years. For, let's say, over 3 decades, the economy has been doing not so well. The unemployment is very high. France is actually the only country in Europe where unemployment still increases. So this is the main topic. Emmanuel Macron is also the one who is pro-European, very outspoken, international, pro-market economy. Actually, exactly the opposite of Marine Le Pen. Now, Macron has a big lead in the polls, but nevertheless, Marine Le Pen still can count on many French people who think she is the answer. Her nationalistic, patriotistic, protectionist policy could protect them. So it's absolutely not a run race.
The results of the first round highlighted the divisions in the country and sort of where their strength lies. Obviously, Le Pen's strength lies outside of the more cosmopolitan, the urban areas. What does she have to do?
Well, what she has to do to win is to convince the people in the cities that she can also be a reliable alternative. Unfortunately for her, the cities vote in a very large majority for Emmanuel Macron. To give you an example, in the capital in Paris, 35% of the Parisians voted for Macron and just 5% for Marine Le Pen. So this is a huge difference. And since the majority of the French live in the cities, it is very hard for her to conquer the cities because, as you said, it's the cosmopolitan vote. It's also higher educated people. It's people who are used to travel. And interestingly enough, also the people who are more optimistic. There was a study this week that showed that people who are pessimists, who don't believe in the future, they are more likely to vote for Marine Le Pen than the optimists. So this is a real difference between the two. There's a geographical difference when you look at the cities and the countryside. And there's also the difference between income. Marine Le Pen's voters usually have a lower income than Macron's voters. So yeah, big differences between the two, and it will be very hard for Marine Le Pen to convince the people in the cities to vote for her.
No matter who wins, this is going to mean a real realignment of French politics. It seems French voters have sort of tossed out everything that has represented French politics for the last decades.
Oh, absolutely. I've been covering French politics for a little bit over, well, almost 20 years. And I've seen, this is my 4th presidential campaign. But was absolutely the most exciting and the unpredictable campaign I've ever seen. And probably everybody agrees with me. Only 6 months ago, everybody thought that we would see François Hollande, the current president, running against Nicolas Sarkozy. Then Sarkozy was kicked out by his own party, and then everybody thought, well, it's going to be Alain Juppé, the former prime minister, who went into exile in Montreal like 10 years ago. So the Canadians probably know him. So all these old names, they have completely disappeared. And especially last week on Sunday, it was the old traditional parties, the conservatives and the socialists who have ruled this country for over 4 decades. They were wiped out. So this is a clear message from the French. They say, well, we've had enough with the old politics. We've have enough of the old politicians because the politics here are dominated by old white male. We want something new. And this new, well, maybe this is Emmanuel Macron or even Marine Le Pen. It is a clear message of the French to the establishment saying, this is enough. We want change.
What are you going to be watching for now over the next week as a journalist covering this campaign?
Well, of course, what is very interesting to see what are the extreme left wingers going to do, because Jean-Luc Mélenchon, he was a contender in the first round. He did extremely well. He got almost 20%, almost the same amount as François Fillon, the conservative candidate. Now, his voters, it's not really clear whom are they going to vote for. These are probably around 6 million voters, something like that. And the tradition in France is that usually the candidates who lose, they give an advice to their voters for whom they are going to vote. Now, all the party leaders have done so, except for Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the extreme left candidate. He doesn't want to take any stance. So a lot of people are now, upset by this attitude, because in general, people think they have to somehow try to prevent Marine Le Pen from becoming the next president. A study showed this week that about a third of his voters, so of Mélenchon's voters, will probably not go to the polls next week. About 20% will vote for Marine Le Pen, and the rest will vote for Emmanuel Macron, so about 40%. Now, Marine Le Pen has started to seduce the voters of the extreme left, because she says, my economical problem is like yours. You want to get work. I'm here to protect you. And that's a rhetoric that the extreme left, sometimes they find that interesting as well. So that will be very interesting. How is Marine Le Pen going to lure the voters of the extreme left to vote for her?
Stefan, thank you very much for your insight on this.
You're very welcome.